Hey folks, today we're going to be taking a look at the Apple Watch SE, which is Apple's newest watch released alongside the Series 6. It's more of a mid-range offering for those on a budget but wanting the latest features. In this video, I'll be taking a look at the good, some of the bad and things to look out for, and some of the features that this watch has available. Before getting into the meat of the video, I want to make an appeal to those of you interested in tech and discussion-related videos to subscribe to this channel, as I'll be posting about those things regularly. With all that said, let's get into it. So one of the most important things about any device is its battery. So let's talk battery on the Apple Watch SE. I have actually had no trouble getting a full 2 days of battery life out of this with normal usage. Normal usage for me is at least 1.5 hour workout per day, and oftentimes closer to an hour or more, in addition to regular, at least moderate usage for checking notifications and checking the time as well. In order to get a full 2 days of battery life out of it, all I've had to do is shut it down fully so that it doesn't have standby usage overnight for that second day of usage, and I have no problem getting through both days with a healthy margin left over. The benefit of a battery life this good is that putting it through far fewer charge cycles will be much better for the longevity of this battery. With that said, I'm very impressed with the battery on this watch, and although not the best, where 3 days or 4 would be a great amount of usage to not even often think about battery charging, it's at least good that it can make it through a comfortable 2 days of full usage. So next, let's talk about the Apple Watch's screen. The screen on this watch is 1,000 nits of brightness. It's an OLED display, so if you have a black watch face on, which mine primarily is, your battery life will last quite a bit longer. And it's the same display found on the Series 5 and Series 6 watches. With that said, I have no complaints about this display besides the fact that Apple omitted the always-on display, which is an omission I'll talk about later in the video. Besides this, the screen gets a thumbs up from me. Next, let's talk about one of the primary reasons most people actually make the purchase of an Apple Watch or a smartwatch in general. The health metrics that the watch provides are actually really great, and this is something I wasn't used to or even expecting, as I have not been a smartwatch owner until this time. But it's been really great to kind of be encouraged to go on more walks. I find myself standing and taking breaks more throughout the day. And I also am more competitive with myself for my workouts. And it's great to have those metrics to kind of compare to historically, looking back on how I did on different things. For example, runs, I can now tell how fast I was on a particular run and kind of be competitive with myself about that. Whereas before, I was really just looking at the clock when I left and looking at it when I got back. And it's really great to have all those features built in. So next, let's talk about features on this watch. I've been overall quite impressed with the features available on this watch, and there have even been some new ones I've learned about. For instance, this watch has 32 gigabytes of space on it, which can be used to have your whole music library on here, and you can then listen to that music while on a run or something like that where you're completely away from your phone. You can still use Bluetooth headphones and listen to all that music. So that's really great. As far as the full suite of features, you get everything you'd pretty much expect from an Apple Watch. The only things you're missing from the Series 6 are a blood oxygen sensor, EKG app support, and an always-on display. It's worth noting that the always-on display and the EKG app support are software omissions, which I'll talk more about later. As a whole, though, the feature suite available on this watch is quite extensive, and I've been impressed with it. So, in regards to performance, although it's just a watch, it's worth noting that the UI is very smooth and it all works great. It's also worth noting that the Apple Watch SE got the S5 chip from last year instead of the new S6 chip that's present on the Series 6 Apple Watch. So although a little slower and probably a little worse for battery and things like that, it's still a great chip It does all it needs to do, and it will likely have support for software updates and things for quite some time. So next, let's talk about the design of this Apple Watch. As a whole, I'm very impressed with it, as I've had no trouble keeping it on almost all day, every day since I've gotten the Apple Watch. I've also been happy with the size. I originally thought the 44mm might be too big for my wrist, but at 180mm in circumference, my wrists are middle of the pack for 44, and this feels like just the right size. So with that, my recommendation would be to stick to Apple's recommendations on their websites for your Apple Watch sizing. And if you prefer a larger screen, I would say it's pretty safe to jump for the 44. So having talked about all the things that make this watch great, I want to address some of the concerns I have about it as well. So one of the main issues I have with this watch is how Apple has chosen to exclude certain features to differentiate it from the Series 6. Apple has decided to exclude the blood oxygen sensor, the always-on display, and the EKG app support. My main issue with these omissions is that two of them, the EKG app support and the always-on display, are completely software only. The hardware is present for those two features to be on this device, but they aren't. That to me means that it would have cost Apple $0 and 0 cents to include them, but they simply didn't because they didn't want to chip away at sales of the Series 6, which it surely would have if they had included those features on this watch. This practice is bothersome to me because it was so easy to include those features, but in order to avoid cannibalizing their high-end sales, they nixed certain features on their mid-range that were super easy to provide. So one of the other main issues I have with this watch is the durability. Being a glass screen, this will break oftentimes if it hits something hard, which can happen quite easily when it's on your wrist all day. This happening will cost you $150, if not more, to fix the screen. The issue with that is that the cost of the watch is nearly the cost to replace it. So if you buy this watch, be mentally prepared to pay almost the price of the watch again if at any point you break it. The last main issue that I have with this watch is the processor. Apple included the S5 chip instead of the S6, which is the most recent, and this bothers me a little bit because it's worse for performance and battery life. Now, it's not that big of a deal, and it's definitely not a deal breaker for me, but it's a little annoying that Apple couldn't just include their S6 chip. So, having talked about all of these things, I want to bring it all together with whether or not it's worth your purchase. As a whole, I think the Apple Watch SE is a decent value, but not a great one. It's priced about right for what it has. Apple knows this. They'll sell plenty of them to customers like me who don't really care about the EKG, the always on display, and the blood oxygen sensor. So as a whole, if this is your price range and these features are all you need, then I think this is a great watch to spring for. If you want those higher end features, then the Series 6 is the only real option that you have. So with that said, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful to you, and if it was, please consider giving it a like. Also, if you have any questions for me or the community, go ahead and leave those in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.